Hello and welcome back to Ram in the Bush Ministries podcast. I'm your moderator, Robert Livingston, and I have a special guest this evening. He's a jack of all trades. He wears different hats. He's a deacon in our church. He's a teacher of the scriptures. He's a defender of the gospel, and he is the founder of the Midwife Lizzie Bell Wilson Foundation. So I'd like everyone to welcome Deacon Charles Hudson. Deacon, thank you, and welcome aboard.
Hello, yes, my name is Charles Hudson. I am a contender for the faith. I do teach at a Carroll Douglas Bible Extension School, but in 2014 we started the Midwife Lizzie Bell Foundation in honor of my great-grandmother, who was a midwife. I was delivered by her, along with all of my other cousins, majority of them that was born before 1963. I don't know how much you want me to expound upon that right now, but I can.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
In 2014, our cousin who was taking care of our cemetery area in the grave across from Mount Prophet Baptist Church, he noticed that her little short tombstone, about that tall, got broken in half. And he come to me, and I'm like one of the elder cousins. He come to me and told me about it, and I had to go to a wedding that month, and so I took a picture of it. And because I didn't really know where my great-grandmother was even buried, but he did, because he took care of everything. And when I went on down to the wedding and everything, I was looking at that month, that later, about 7 days later, I looked at that date, and it was 1964 when she passed. So it was 50 years since then. And I said, well, we'll just have a Jubilee celebration. I know a lot of her children, and I mean her great-grandchildren, and some of her children too, and her grandchildren would love to donate if we just make it an event. And so when I came back to Villa Rica, we organized this event, and then the city got involved, and then some Bell babies, what they are called, Bell babies, who was delivered by my Bell, Miss Lizzie Bell Wilson, they got involved, and everybody was making donations. They were selling stuff. We raised some money. Then the Historical Society of Villa Rica got involved also. We raised enough money to get her a huge memorial tombstone, and we had some money left over, half of what we had left over, and we decided to start a Midwife Lizzie Bell Foundation in honor of her memory. Legacy learned, legacy lived, and legacy left. And one of our objectives at that point was just to get a commemorative stamp in her honor. I work with the United States Post Office also. But then as I did the research and was learning more about midwives, and one of my daughter-in-law, the one whose wedding I went to, she was trying to become a midwife, and the Georgia Midwife Association from the American College of Nurse Midwives needed a representative of midwives at the convention that was being held in Georgia. And so they contacted me. They couldn't find a granny midwife, but they contacted me. And so our organization went down there. I have never met so many midwives in my life. It was in Savannah. This thing was over 1,500 midwives there from all over the world, all over the United States. And all the research that they led me to, and I started learning about midwives, I found out that the mortality rate was so high for black women, and that at that time, Georgia was number one. Right now, Louisiana is number one since 2022. Most of the data that we look at is about a year old, but it's for the last couple of years, it's either been Georgia or it's been Louisiana. And Georgia, Louisiana, they go back and forth as being the highest mortality rate in the nation. But besides that, the United States is the highest in the wealthiest nations of the world. Theirs is the highest of any industrialized nation in the world. And and we started looking at reasoning and stuff, and what could we do? Well, we could increase awareness of this. We could dedicate funds. We started giving scholarships to people that wanted to become midwives. We worked to publicize midwifery care, and we tried to identify barriers to midwifery care. And we're also trying to find more Bell babies. We even found Bell babies that still today did not have a birth certificate, and try to get them their birth certificate. We encourage and support midwifery initiative. Many of those midwife wives that I met at that Savannah convention signed a petition to get stamps. We done tried 3 times. We got 3 different answers. It hadn't came out yet. And then we started also recognizing excellence in 5 key areas. Because she was a midwife, medical. Because she said in a couple of newspaper articles that she did during her lifetime, once she said, I talked to the Lord and he helped me. So we did religion. We did education because the Shepherd-Tanner Act, she had to start taking training. The Hill-Burton Act, she had this, Shepherd-Tanner Act was in 1929. It was the first federal legislation that had a social impact, where the federal government would give funds to states that would match what they give and set up clinics and start training midwives, along with some other stuff too for health and everything. But Mortality Act got defunded in 1929. In 1921 it started, it got defunded. But the states kept it going. Then in 1948, with the rise of the American Medical Association, midwives had to start passing a test. You know, up until these times, and my grandmother, the first that we know of, we got a newspaper article where she delivered a baby at 14 years old that she told about. But a gentleman at her funeral, he got up. She died in 1964. She got up and said, and she stopped delivering baby in 1963. He at her funeral said, she delivered me and all my children. And he was born in 1904. And he had 10 children. And he said, I still need to pay her. And so the Hill-Burton Act was passed, and they had to start taking tests. And so we do one for education, because whatever legislation that she had to do, she continued to deliver baby. Then we do one for community service, award for excellence in community service, because she said in one of her newspaper articles, well, some people could pay me and some people couldn't, but I went back every time. She delivered whole families. You know, we got records of whole families that she delivered. And then we do one for civic service, because the state of Georgia, we got a picture of her, the state of Georgia gave her a ribbon right here. That's from the state of Georgia when she retired the second time. You know, so we honor those 5 areas, and an award given out each year to someone from one of those 5 areas that are, you know, doing things that is either legacy learned or legacy lived or legacy left. And we've been doing this since 2000. Well, we've been having an organization since 2014, and there's little things that we do in the community. Right now, we're finna to start honoring mothers. We're thinking that because the most we found now recently is this young girl. She had 4 babies, and all her babies been delivered by a midwife. We know some elders that are still living that all their babies were delivered by midwife, but they had 6 children that were delivered by. It's none like it was back in my Bell day, with the whole family, 10, 11 children were delivered by midwife. You know, so but that's what we
That's
are.
amazing.
That's
And all of them were healthy and no complications whatsoever.
Yes, I can tell you all kinds of stories. Yes, but they all are healthy and no complications. That's why we say my brother wasn't delivered by midwife. That's why we say that's how he is, why he is. You know, that's a little joke in the family. But we all healthy and no complications. We don't. Now she had a couple of stillborns that she had to deliver. You know, but I haven't heard of any mortality we research. Our effort here has been trying to identify the children who was delivered by her. We have 2 pages full. These are children that were delivered by her. And the only way we know, because what it is that this is HIPAA. This come under HIPAA law. I can't go I went to the State Department. I said, I need a list of babies that were delivered by Mawel. We don't have the information. We may have it, but it's all on microfilm or data is tabulated, and nobody has tabulated, and we could not give it to you anyway. Only the person that's a relative of that who's seeking a birth certificate can come up there and get that information. Release. And so we had to start telling people, because some people weren't sure. We had this gentleman, he said, most of the Bell babies I can tell their story. So if I mention somebody's name, they have given me permission to tell their story. He graduated with me. His name was James Lyrie, and he said, I'm not sure whether I was delivered by my Bell or not. You know, and he said, I said, well, you know, you look at your birth certificate, and it got all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or either ABC slots. You go down to number 15. If you don't have no doctor up here in number 1 or 2, you go down to a hospital. It may have home. If it got home, you look down to number 15 or M, and it's going to give a midwife name. And so he said, okay, when I go get my birth certificate, I'll check that. So, but then he talked to his wife about it and said, no, she wasn't delivered by a midwife, Miss Anita Cox, Lyra, when she got married. But anyway, he went and got his, and he got hers also. Lo and behold, he was delivered by a midwife, and she was too. But she never knew. No one had ever told her. When we were born as a baby, no one ever told us, but my mother had told me I have my birth certificate somewhere, but it's just that I can see her written name on it that she delivered me and delivered a whole lot of my cousins. That's where you can find out if you are delivered by a midwife or not. I have a 1933 of Carroll County midwife, and my Bell was the oldest, and she stopped in 1963, and this other lady was the youngest, and she stopped delivering in 1973. And her granddaughter became she was getting her doctor's degree, and she was doing.
Put it up on the screen.
That lady came and spoke at our last banquet. She identified every one of those ladies except for one. And when she was researching about her grandmother, which is the youngest Bell baby, the last granny midwife, and she ran into my grandmother's name a lot of the time, and she researched her too, and it was telling us about her because she was the first granny midwife of Carroll County, and they delivered. My grandmother delivered baby from Alabama to Atlanta. I got stories of people that she delivered in Atlanta.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Well, this foundation, you mentioned the awards. How do you do you do fundraisers, or you have some type of donations to get the awards? Are they? I understand.
Our major outlay of monetary fund goes to our scholarship. We give out 2 scholarships a year. Each one of them is $1,000 to prospective midwives, to students who are going to school to become a midwife. They have to submit an essay. They have to give us their GPA, their curriculum. And we look at that and the essay and what they seen it, how they answer the application also, and we make a decision. But that's $1,000 in January and $1,000 in July. Now we have a banquet every year where we raise funds, but we have a place on Givelify where you can, and it's just Midwife Lizzie Bell. You can search Givelify for Midwife Lizzie Bell, and we have donors that donate to us on a regular basis, monthly basis. It may be $10, it may be $20, but they donate on a monthly basis. We have some that donate $100, but we have a mailing list that we mail to and let them know what we are doing. We get a monthly newsletter, something like this here, that goes out. That it's not monthly, maybe quarterly, that goes out and let them know where we stand and everything. But we could do more if we had more, but we've been blessed to keep on going with what we get. But it's a donation to P.O. Box 939, Villa Rica, Georgia 30180, on the Midwife Lizzie Bell Foundation, or it's on this app called Givelify.com, where you can find Midwife Lizzie Bell. Just put in the search Midwife Lizzie Bell, and it will pop up. Her picture will pop up, and you'll be doing it. We do have a cash app. It's the $, Midwife Lizzie, and that is our cash app where people can make donations. Because what we believe, and we are sure, now we believe that the more access people have to midwife, the lower the mortality rate would be. The more people that know about midwife, the lower the mortality rate. I see ladies come into young girls come into the post office, and they be pregnant. Now, you hate to ask, but they'll tell you after a while. If you've seen them a couple of times, then do you have a midwife? Some of them don't even know what a midwife is. They don't have access to midwife or anything, but it will lower the mortality rate. A midwife delivers the whole family. A midwife is there to you pre-partum and postpartum, and throughout it all, and they will help you now. And they're not trying to encourage you to get a C-section. That's why a lot of but they will encourage you for whatever medical need that you need, But they have ways to understand what a person really needs. So we think that because it happened, see, in World War I, That was a when you had to start getting birth certificate and death certificate in 1914 after World War One. That was a baby boom, and what they seen from the documentation was that there's a lot of people dying in childbirth. So they start training midwives, and my mother had been a midwife, and that's why she was able. And I'm gonna tell you this little short story. She went to her oldest granddaughter. I'm a great child, and her oldest granddaughter worked at Fort McPherson, and so those ladies that came from the north or wherever and come down to the south at this time, we're talking around 1944 and stuff, and those after World War II. Right. They did not want to go into any segregated hospital, and they didn't. And so, like, her oldest granddaughter said, "I know somebody, and will come out to Villa Rica and get my bail and take her over there to Atlanta, and she'll stay 2 or 3 weeks with her and deliver babies, sometimes babies, and then come on back home." When she came back home, she had some suits and clothes and stuff. 'Cause that's one time that she did get paid for her grandchildren that lived with her. And they recalled those times when she would go to Atlanta on that Greyhound bus or come back home on that Greyhound bus, to Villa Rica. But after World War I, with the education of the midwife, the mortality rate went down. After World War II, there was another baby boom. These soldiers coming home, and the mortality rate went up again. Infant mortality and maternal mortality. But with more training and more education and getting stuff out there to the public about, because even still, the Hill-Burton Act was to give money to be a hospital, but still hospital were 50, 60 miles away from some rural areas, and they couldn't get there, but the midwife had to start taking tests and pass those tests. We got paperwork where she passed these tests every year, but it helped lower the maternal mortality rate. We believe, because in those early hospitals, and you go to the hospital now, they tell you that don't come unless you don't have to, because it's diseases in the hospital with COVID and everything, and that's what brought about a whole lot of interest in midwives again with the COVID.
Not to mention there are hospitals shutting down across the country now. We just had 2 shut down here in the Atlanta area. Yes.
So, but each state is different with the laws. It's how did they say it? It's laws that's in place where it's either independent midwife or collaborative midwife or supervisory midwife, where you got to have somebody supervise on you, collaborate, work with the hospital. There's only certain states where you can be an independent midwife, or what they call a direct entry midwife, and haven't taken no collegiate training as such. But
I saw Texas had a problem.
Yes, it causes a problem sometimes, but there are others who are certified by the state or certified by certified boards of the midwifery council. But some you have to become a nurse first and then become a midwife. But if we get all kind of applicants for our scholarship, we get all kind of applicants. I mean, direct entry applicant that is going to a midwifery school that just are being trained by some person, because they don't really have a transcript. We have to see a transcript, but they send us something. But even still, we look at the transcript that they have, and we make our decision based on that transcript and based on the essay. And we've given out 5 scholarships so far. We just started in 2018, but we and then we decided to start giving out 2 a year so we can do more. Cause if we give up, my grandmother, we assume because that she might have delivered 3,000 babies. We have what's in Villa Rica, a doctor named Dr. Boss. He just recently retired, but he worked for about 20 years in the medical facility when there was just general practitioners, and they did everything, which is delivering baby, and they called them boss baby. He told us himself that he delivered 3,000 babies. Now, if he just worked 25 years, delivered 3,000 babies, my grandma was a midwife for 60 years.
And that was during the baby boom.
During the baby boom, so we figured she delivered more than that. But we said it there, and we're trying to identify the ones that are still living, because the majority of the ones that she delivered was in the 1910, 1920, 1930s, and 1940s. I was born in 1956, so us that were born in 1956 and the few that were born in 1960s, are just the tail end of the number of babies that she delivered. But we believe that using midwife would lower the maternity rate. and getting more midwives in Georgia, especially because Georgia is most of the time is number one. Just recently now, Louisiana Patterson is number 2 in the mortality rate, but that was 2022. See, this because of the HIPAA laws and everything, they have to look at old records. It'll be a year old. They can't look at the 2023 record. We'll get the 2023 records in 2024. Because of the HIPAA laws and everything. But they have mortality medical review committees. Many states have them that the federal government set up that look at whenever there's a mortality, they have to give the information, the data, and send it to this review committee, and the review committee will datarize that, statisticize that, put it into statistics. They can't really prosecute anybody. And which, it's many times it's just a mistake, it's an overlook or mistake, but it's reasons that, and the funny thing about it is, not really funny, but the morbid thing about it, 60% of maternal mortality are preventable.
Yeah, absolutely. And and also you mentioned, kind of touched on the fact that, the bedside manners, the way the midwife would be more welcoming in some cases than the OBGYN. And at the end of this post, at the end of this podcast, I'm going to play a little excerpt from Tatiana Ali, who had her first baby by an OBGYN and the second baby by a midwife. And she swears by midwives now, and basically said that there is no comparison, that any other future child she has is she's utilizing a midwife, and she recommends the same thing. Maybe one day I can reach out and get her on the podcast to talk about that. But again, she's affiliated now with a midwifery program or foundation.
When I was in Savannah at the midwifery convention, this midwife wanted me to meet her husband. She wanted me to meet her. So the next day she brought him, and I met her husband. And his story was that he was the one of his brothers, 2 on this side, siblings 2 on this side, that was delivered by the hospital. The mother had 2 by a midwife, and for whatever reason, during the 1950s, he's about my age, during the 1950s, I was born in 1956, she decided, or was encouraged or told that she needed to go to the hospital to have this baby. Well, she went to the hospital to have this baby, and she said that when she woke up, they had her baby dressed in something. They was over there giving her baby them formulas and stuff. And she said, I did not want that, I did not want to be asleep during my pregnancy. I did not want to. I did not want y'all. I had some clothes for my baby to wear. I did not want y'all feeding my baby that milk stuff y'all got him. She got up, dressed herself, dressed her baby, took her baby out the hospital, and walked home, which was about 1.5 miles. She said she'll never go back again and have no more babies. And she had the other 2 babies by a midwife that she had after him. And that story was told to him over and over as a child when he was growing up, because he was the middle child, but he was the one born at the hospital, and the rest of them, they were not going to be delivered at the hospital anymore. My baby brother that was delivered at the hospital was called Mama Bell. She just had stopped delivering babies. She had passed, I believe, when he was born. He was born in 1964. She wasn't delivering any more babies at that point in time. But yes, midwifery care is the best care. As far because it's a natural process. It is a natural process. People don't know. When they came to America on those Mayflower ships and everything, that was a midwife on the Mayflower. And it took months to come over. Now, during the trip, they had to take that midwife from one ship to the other ship to deliver a baby on the other ship. When they got into America, many of the witch hunt burnings were killing midwives. The doctors wanted to have that. That's what they wanted. They didn't want, because the midwives used in those days, they didn't have that method. They used herbs and spices, and they knew how to do things, and they thought it was witchcraft or something like that. And that was what a lot of I'm not saying, but that's what it was. Was trying to get it, make it be more male dominant as far as having baby. But that's what the midwife means. Mid means with the wife, with the wife, And when slavery was, On my other side of my family, my daddy's side of my family, my midwife Lizzie Bell was on my mother's side of the family. The slaves' mothers many times were the slaves. She was the midwife. She was the one that lived all the babies at the plantation. She was also the one that what they call wet nurses, that sucked the babies and everything on these plantations. This I'm talking about. We going on before my baby was born in 1878. I'm talking about before then. Before then, that's what it was. Before then, but when the medical profession became hospitalized and going to hospital and everything, they tried to put the midwives out of business, but they really cannot, because many people prefer. But this younger generation, they don't. You ask them, they don't know. They really don't see the benefit. They see hospitals and they think where they need to be, but. And in Georgia, you really got to be associated with a birthing center or a hospital in some way if you're going to be, in case something do happen. You have to be have that supervisory position with them where they corroborate on what you're doing. And because, see, your payment through insurance, it can't, unless because that's a lot of issues right there with midwives. Right. So they got to have that third party involved, the hospital or whatever.
Okay.
We need to... I don't know, see what the barriers are to making it in some states like they are now, direct entry. I've even found midwives that do midwifery birth by video. They train train the wife and husband. The husband's the one doing it, but she trains the wife and husband. I'm not advocating that. I'm not advocating that at all. I'm not, they train the wife and husband on by how to do things. They take this class and everything by Zoom, everything like we're doing here. And then when they start having it, they call her and on Zoom and everything, and she will talk them through it.
I'll pass on that.
Once they found out about it, they shut her down and everything. But she was doing that. She was doing that. She knew how to do stuff like that. And she was doing that. I've seen one that because of I don't know what the reason was, but the midwife quit on them, and so they found us online, and she called me. This lady was about 6 or 7 months along, and she wanted a midwife. It's hard for a midwife to take you at that point. I mean, they will if they're at a birthing center, but they need to know your history from when you get pregnant, 3 or 4. You find out you are pregnant at 2 and 3 months. That's when you need to get your midwife. Or before, when you decide to have a baby, because nutrition plays a lot in having a perfect birth. And all of them are perfect if they're born. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you having a healthy baby and everything before you get pregnant. When you are thinking about it, you and your husband are thinking about it, then you should start thinking about getting you a midwife and having something. And I don't want you to confuse a midwife with a doula. A doula is not a midwife. A doula is someone that is like a coach. Or they will, but midwife can. Most midwives. Nurse midwives I know specifically can prescribe medicines if you need something. They know herbs and spices and things that can help you without getting the medicine. But if you need it, they can do stuff like that. They can, if you need an OBGYN or a labor nurse, they can do that. But a doula, they iron your clothes, wash your dishes, they help you with lactations and everything, but they are not into delivering a baby. They just coaching, Your husband can be a good doula if he's a good man.
This is the first I'm hearing of a doula. It's a doula?
D-O-U-L-A. They call them doulas.
Okay.
The doulas have a specific function that is not about health-wise as far as with a midwife. They're there to assist and aid and coach the pregnant mother along to the point of delivery where the midwife would take over.
All right. Well, Deke, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share your gift with us. I'm going to post a link down on this podcast where people can reach out to you. If you could you give us those contact information again? If they need to contact you, go ahead.
Okay. Our banquet is the first Saturday in November every year. Whatever Saturday that falls on is the first Saturday in November, which is most of the time, it's been the Saturday that time rolled back an hour. So we get an extra hour to have our banquet.
Okay.
You know, we have a good time. We have a little comedian there. We have some spiritual dance or whatever. But and then we give the awards out, and we talk about midwifery a little bit. But the contact is CHUDSON641@yahoo.com. That is my email address. Or Charles Hudson at Midwife Lizzie Bell Foundation.org. We have an organization, a Google organization. You can search Google. You can search YouTube for Midwife Lizzie Bell. We got videos up of our previous banquets and awards that we have given out. You can see our previous winners and stuff. We have a Facebook page, Midwife Lizzie Bell. We have a Facebook page. Some people have contacted me through that Facebook page. You can text me at 678-360-0079. You can text me there, and I don't know everything, but I know somebody. I got some midwives on our staff, on our executive board, some nurses on our executive boards, and and they represent organizations to where we can, if you need a midwife, we can find you a midwife in your area. Our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 939 at Villa Rica, Georgia 30180. You can put that in. You can just put Midwife Lizzie Bell. You can put Lizzie Bell or Midwife Lizzie Bell or Midwife Lizzie Bell Wilson Foundation. We even got people that put ML Midwife Lizzie, Midwife Lizzie Bell B Foundation, MFLWB Foundation, M for Midwife Lizzie Bell, and then B W Wilson Foundation. Her last name was Wilson. The lady that we gave the awards to one year for community service, she did community service. For years, she'd been the gospel radio announcer in Carroll County and everything. And we were talking to her, and I'm Midwife Lizzie Bell, Midwife Lizzie. She said, yeah, I'll come get the awards and everything. So I sent her the information, and she called me back. She said, is this Miss Wilson I'm getting this award for? She said, when I was pregnant with my son, and I think it was back in the 1950s, Arthur Clark, Miss Arbell Clark. She said, my husband told me when my water broke and I was going in labor pain, he said, I know somebody. He said, I'm going to go get her. And he drove from Carrollton to Villa Rica and got my baby, because she didn't drive. She was back in buggy and wagon days. She did not drive. And so he came and got her, and he delivered Mr. Arthur Clark, her son, And so she told her son about it. And he said, what I need to do, and he made a donation. He came to a couple of banquets and he made a donation and everything. We're still looking for Bell babies. Those who were delivered by Mom Bells or any one of those Carroll County midwives, we done sort of stretched out now, to include all those. Because we want people to know that you can be delivered by midwife and be healthy and then be natural born. We natural born. We consider ourselves special because we natural born. Because they question the asked, well, do you use any anesthesia or anything with them? She said, she just laughed. The newspaper article after that, she just laughed. She said, no, all my babies are born naturally, just natural born. They had those herbals and stuff. The Shepherdtown Act gave them a list of things that they had to have in their briefcase, their little black bag. And anybody saw them told them little black bag, Miss Brooks will tell us this, and other people had told us this also, that they always thought that Ma Bell was carrying the baby to the new resident, like she was the stork or something, because they know wherever she went, that was going to be a baby born, but as a young child that day, I met this lady who was 104 years old. She was my wife's grandmother, and this lady remembered when she saw her first car. She remembered when she saw her first blimp, and she remembered, when it went from radio to TV. And she was so glad when Obama was president, But she also remembered Ma Bell. And she said, every time I saw her with that little black bag, I know she was taking a baby to somebody's house, But the 1929 Shepherdtown Act, they had to have certain items in their bag. And what the midwives would do, now this came to our attention because the lady, Miss Nunley, Dr. Nunley, whose mother was the youngest midwife on that picture, that 1930 picture, granny midwife, she said that what they would do is they would have two bags, because the county would come around and inspect. They want to look in your bag and make sure you had everything that was in your bag. We got a PowerPoint video that shows all of this information that's on the website and on YouTube. And some of those items they had to have in there. But then when they went to deliver baby, they get that other bag where they had their little herbs and things in it, and had the little weight scale that they would weigh them on, and the little thing they put around the neck to hit a heartbeat and everything. But they had to play the roles like that, to accomplish what they did, to make sure that their baby would deliver healthy and stuff. So.
Yes, sir.
As you see, I can go on and on about midwifery.
Yes, sir, and I'm enjoying it. I just hope that this podcast will be able to reach out to some people and motivate them to seriously look at possibly either going to a midwife for delivery, or possibly even getting into being a midwife.
Yeah.
So
I will. Can I tell you one more thing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In our effort to get a stamp for midwifery, and first we were told no, and you got to wait 3 years. Then we were told we received it, and we're gonna pass it on to the United States. And then we were told from the United States Postal Service that it wasn't really a no or a yes. It was just, we got the information and told how long the process takes. But we did some research. They have issued a midwifery stamp in I think it was 1979 or 1999 or somewhere around there. Miss Beckenbridge, Mary Beckenbridge. She was a midwife that used to deliver baby on horseback, riding all over the Appalachian. She was a white lady. And so she eventually started the midwifery school there in Hayden, Kentucky. And for a long time, even while she was alive, she would not allow black people to come to that school.
Really?
We had a lady that I know now, Miss Dorothy McCoy Harris, that we gave her an award to for her service as a nurse for 50 years. And I did not know this. In her speech, she told about she applied to a lot of midwifery because at the insistence, she was delivered by Marbell. At the insistence of Marbell, she was trying to become a midwife. She already had a nursing degree, but none of these colleges down here would accept her. She found one in Connecticut somewhere, but she did not want to uproot her family to go up there for those years to take the midwifery school. So I'm thinking that if you all can give a stamp, with Mary Beckenbridge and with her sign of the time attitude about not allowing blacks to go to her school, then you ought to give one to Marbell Wilson, and that's going to be our proposal this year, to allow them, because that would make, a lot of Villa Rica people happy. It's not, maybe she's not nationally known or she is regionally known in the state of North Carolina. We got a letter from Nathan Dean when he was governor about her. We got a letter from Lynn Westmoreland when he was congressman about her and about our effort. We got a postcard from Obama about her effort what we was doing during that time. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, Deke, before we let you go,
yes, sir.
Can you share with us your favorite scripture?
My favorite scripture. Let's see. As he is, so are we in this world. As he is, so are we in this world. That come from 1, 2, 3. I think that's First John. John wrote 3 books, and I think that's First John. I have to find it. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it's really not the full scripture. But it is a 9 monosyllable, 9 words that have just got 1 syllable in it, and so it's 9 monosyllable. But as he is, so are we in this world. Because that is our drive. We can't never be like him. But see, John was the beloved, and John wrote about people who said that they thought that a God could not be in the flesh, and if Jesus was in the flesh, then he wasn't God. See, he lived in that time where Jesus was the Son of God, but the disciples knew him as God the Son.
Right.
And moving from the Son of God to the God the Son was an effort of teaching for those apostolic disciples. They was apostles, and so to grasp the apostolic doctrine, you got to grasp Jesus as God the Son, and he was trying to tell them that as he is right now, in this world. He's not talking about was. He's talking about is in this world. He's sitting at the right hand of the Father Almighty. He's advocating for us right now. So are we in this world. He said, when he said we, he was talking about the apostles, but we should take on that too and say we and the apostles, like Peter said in his writing, I'm finna go. A lot of people talk about Peter as far as he cut the man's ear off, or he denied Jesus 3 times, and that's what they remember. But see, Peter preached on Pentecost, and 3,000 was saved.
Yes,
After
sir.
Peter told that man, 7 goals have I none, but such as I have, I give thee. And that man went in there leaping and hopping with them. 5,000 people were saved. Peter rose Tabitha from the dead. She was dead up there, and see, after Peter was converted, Jesus prayed, said, Peter, the devil want to sift you every week. I have prayed for you. And after you have converted, he didn't say if you converted, he said, I have prayed for you, and after you are converted, strengthen the brother. So when Peter got older, when he wrote 1 Peter and 2 Peter, especially 1 Peter is like a submission doctrine, but 2 Peter is about what we should be doing in this world. And as he wrote that, he said, I got to do because my time in this shelter here of being alive with you all, because Jesus done told me, said when you get older, you got to be led around, and people going to be taking you wherever you don't want to go. And he said he could see those times coming, but I got to make sure that I give you everything that I got. I got to write it down so you all can have everything that I got. And so if you can read 1 Peter, the submission doctrine, but if you can read 2 Peter without these preconceived prejudices that people have about the type of man Peter was, he cut that man ear off, but if somebody come toward my pastor, I might, I ain't gonna say I'm gonna cut the ear off, but I'm gonna be protective of him, and then when the cock crowed 3 times, you remember Peter cried bitterly. He cried bitterly because he realized what he had done, and so. But he was able to go beyond that and submit himself to what Jesus was talking about. And that's why he wrote the submission doctrine in 1 Peter. All those submission lists. And then 2 Peter. A favorite scripture? I got favorite books. Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John. Especially 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John. Peter, James, and John. But that scripture there, as he is in this world, so are we. That's what we got to strive to be, just like he was in this world.
Well, Deacon, I'd like to thank you, and hopefully I can get you back on, and we can do some Bible study on the podcast. All right. Well, thank you, and bless you, and we'll see you. And
thank you. I like to call you Deacon. I'm going to call you Minister, but Mr. Robert Levinson.
No, brother. Just call me brother. That's it. No title for me.
Well, see, if you call me Doc, that's the disciple of Christ. I'll be all right with that.
Yes, sir. All right.
Yes, indeed.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Brother Robert, you like a brother to me, Brother Robert Levinson. I appreciate all you do. And I can see what I see in you, and it's a blessing.
Well, thank you. Same here. Same here.
And I appreciate this. I really appreciate this.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Sienna Ali. I'm an actress. I'm a Black maternal health advocate. I am a mom of 2 beautiful Black baby boys. I started doing work in this space while I was expecting my 2nd baby. And that is because of my experience in the hospital with my 1st baby. I had a very healthy pregnancy, and when we got to the hospital, all that changed. I experienced coercion. I experienced abusive language and very abusive touch, and that all culminated into an emergency C-section, and my son spending his 1st week of life at the NICU. I found out later that all of that is preventable. Black women are 3 times more likely than their white counterparts to die during childbirth. Think about that. And that says nothing about the treatment that we get when we enter into the healthcare system for our pregnancies. I cannot tell you how many stories I have heard that are just like mine. And then at worst, I'm talking to the family members of a mama who's been lost. And like I said, it's all preventable. 60% of those deaths didn't have to happen. So I am so happy that Pampers and Rock the Bells have decided to uplift diverse voices, center Black women in this journey, and organizations that are doing this work. I am just, I gotta tell you, so grateful that the alarm bells are ringing and that people are listening. And, when you can kind of guide yourself to different places and spaces where you can get the care that you deserve. And that's what I was able to do with the birth of my second son, Alejandro. And I just want that for everybody. I want those choices for everybody. We can do this. You're loved, mama. Don't be scared by all these statistics and these headlines. That doesn't have to be your story. There are other ways. Love you.